Welcome to Spirited Straight Talk, the ultimate podcast for anyone who is ready to live a life with intention and help from spirit. I am your host, Deb Shepard, spiritual teacher, medium, and author, helping you open up to the whole enchilada, or like we like to say, the soul enchilada, so you can truly make your soul rise. So let's go. So today's topic is about karma.
Let me guess, it's one of your favorites.
Yes, it is. And the reason...
Because you have so many favorites.
I do. But I'm going to talk about the human side of karma and my belief around karma versus dharma. And we've heard the saying, what goes around comes around. Karma made me do it. And one of them, I was on Pinterest and looking at some different ones of what people say about karma, because I just love Pinterest as well. And it gets your mind going about
creativity
and things you think about. The one, karma has no menu. You get served what you deserve.
Ooh.
And my human...
That's fear-based.
It is fear-based. And we like to teach about the law of attraction and creating good things in your life. And as a human, we have all been hurt. And so many times we just want them to have the same thing happen to them, or even worse for most cases. And what we want is for them to feel the pain that they gave you.
Right. And so you wish bad things on them because they hurt you.
Yeah. And I get that on a human scale of like, well, you hurt me, so you have to get this back.
It's almost a belief system of, well, you hurt me, and I know karma is going to take care of you.
Right.
So it is projecting a negativity.
Correct. And I think that is sort of a religious view of you're going to be punished in this life or in your afterlife, and God's going to get you, and things like that. And my perception of it is karma is basically just a human belief on most of it. Now, there's a fine line between it, but Dharma is more of an exchange of energy where we signed up to come learn these things, and we're learning them, and we are going to benefit and change our lives to the more positive because of how we're being treated. So we will see that constant behavior of maybe being abandoned or maybe being judged. Those type of things that we keep seeing happening, we want that to happen to them versus how do we change who we are so those things don't happen to us, or we have the tools to respond to that energy, that lesson that we're learning.
Or we have the right boundaries in place so people don't cross them.
Right. And if we look at certain individuals that have hurt us, a lot of times our gut said way before it happened, like, this doesn't feel right, or should I really trust this? And our expectations are, well, they're not going to do that to me because they like me and they care about me and everyone says they're a good person. And that's not always the case. When we go into our gut feeling, we know when something doesn't feel right, but we don't see the value in saying, that affects me, that hurts me, we can't be doing this, and how can you change that? But when I've been teaching this over time, I'm not a person that says, well, they're going to get theirs.
Right.
It's what is it that you are learning in this lifetime that can help shift that energy around.
Right.
Some people even believe that they did bad things in a past life and the karma is coming back in this lifetime to get them.
Right.
And I just don't feel that's how we learn.
Right.
And I don't feel like that's a positive, enlightened energy for us to say, okay, we may have done some really horrible things in past lifetimes or even in this lifetime. Mm-hmm. It's about turning it around, not being punished because we really feel that people should be punished for their behavior.
Right. It goes straight to it's almost like it translates karma for me when we talk about it this way, translates right into dogma.
Correct.
It's taking that same dogmatic belief system and putting it right into that slot for a different religion, I guess you could say.
Absolutely. And I think, too, that we want to prove that, I'm going to use our perpetrator, whoever that may be in our life, that does things that hurt us. And it's learning to say that basically, to know that their opinion, their judgment, their abandon isn't really your own true value. Mm-hmm. We put ourselves out there a lot of times and we're hoping that they will get it and let me prove to them that I'm right. Now, I do believe that we have, on our human level, we do have things when people are murdered or sexually assaulted or things that there's been a crime done rape, things like that, there are systems for people to go to prison and for them to pay that price. I don't consider that karma.
Right.
I consider that the law to keep things balanced when we don't feel safe in our own homes.
The earthly law.
The earthly law.
Right.
But when it comes to karma law, I just don't see that that's part of the equation.
So when you started feeling this type of energy regarding karma and dharma, exchange of energy, and really pulling your belief system away from that dogmatic belief system, was this from connecting with the thousands of souls that you've connected with? Did they give you that, or your guides?
Yeah, my guides, when I was writing a lot of work around our life's purpose and our soul's contracts.
Because you channeled all that info.
Yeah, and people don't have to believe my way. I just want to give people a different perspective. To me, karma is a fun word to use in our vocabulary when we want to make a joke about our pain.
Or we wish punishment for someone else.
Yes.
Which I get that completely, because
we've been hurt.
Well, yeah. And when we talk about, and I have some people in my life that talk about karma to me for things that have been done to me in my past, which if you've listened to a few podcasts ago, my story and talking through that and forgiveness, I had specific people, my stepmother and father, who did horrible, horrible things. But I still don't wish bad upon them. I just don't care to have a relationship or have them in my circle at all. I don't like their energy. I don't want their energy around me. But that doesn't mean I wish bad for them. That's their own
energy,
right?
Right. And to me, if people are going to look at what they've done to somebody else, they're never going to. And that's why we're wishing bad things for them, because they think they should get it. And I will tell you,
So like an individual who's been hurt feels like, when they think about karma, feels like the individual who hurt them should get the pain that they caused.
Yes.
And they don't. So that's when we, in our mind, say, well, karma's going to get you.
Correct. And then we carry around that pain forever, because we're waiting for that other person, for us to be shown, see, you got yours. And that is a lot of energy that you're carrying. And I think that affects the things in your life. And I think you're going to attract more people that are going to cause some suffering.
Oh, because you're putting that energy out there.
You're just hoping for more pain for this individual. And so on the spiritual side, it's looking at, okay, you had this experience. Don't let it make you go into that place that you're not worthy. Go into the place of creating boundaries. See your own value. Because what they did to you is their perception, but it's not your truth. For you to be abused was their perception of a belief system. And which is, I always go back to, what do you believe? And if you believe that people are going to go to hell, or God's going to punish them, or that they're going to get karma, all that energy is so much more work than it is to say, okay, what am I learning in this? And how can I heal my heart? How can I not let this happen again? And if it does, what are my tools? And that's going to raise your vibration and consciousness. It's going to help you not have those things happen in your life as much, and you're not going to desire the karma. The Dharma, again, is that you came here to learn some lessons, and some people will show up in your life to teach you those lessons because you have an exchange of energy. I will help you learn to be independent. I will help you learn to find your voice. I am here to help you create boundaries, for you to have self-love. So they pop in as these teachers for you to grow. So the Dharma is a good thing. But to have that teacher be punished because they did what you designed them to do is kind of, it's almost like ricochet. It's going to come back. It's going to go, what are those things in Australia that they throw those? Boomerang. Yeah, it's a boomerang. You throw it back out there, it's coming right back at you.
Gotcha. So when you talk about lessons, and we've talked about this in, I think, a past podcast about soul contracts, but when you talk about lessons, you're saying that you actually created a contract before coming here, before you incarnated, with these teachers. So they're here to teach you a lesson. If you wish bad upon them because they're teaching you a lesson, you wish bad upon them, you're bringing more of that energy back to yourself.
Because you're learning. And you don't have to believe in a soul's contract and things like that. But over the years, I see these patterns with people that are just really good people. And they have these horrific things happen to them. There is no way I can believe that they have karma. I can't feel as if they are supposed to suffer in this lifetime. I do believe that they go deeper in each lifetime. And so sometimes the situations that they're learning, I always say, well, you're getting your PhD. And I also agree that there's free will. What happens a lot of times is that we keep waiting for that person or people to suffer so
Their
that
punishment.
so that we can feel justified. And I feel like you're wasting so much energy and time in hoping for bad will for somebody else. And one of the things I wrote down here, and people are going to be surprised about this, but when I do work on cold cases, people that have been murdered, things like that, missing people, we get information from the perpetrator. And you remember this, I had Ted Bundy come in. And in a group session, small group session. Yeah, that was an
odd one.
And I could feel, because I saw the picture of Ted Bundy, that's how I knew it was him. And one of the people in the small group believed that one of their friends had died from the hands of Ted Bundy. It was never proven, but they do believe because it fit the profile.
He was here at the time in Colorado.
Right.
She disappeared. She was his type of girl. I mean, there were like lots of things. But yeah, she and Ted Bundy came through.
Correct.
And basically said, yes, this was
what
me.
Happened. Right.
Yeah.
So that tells me I know that there isn't a hell or a karma. And for some people, they may think, well, how do they get punished?
Right.
Well, it's much deeper than that for this podcast. But what I want to say is look at healing in a completely different way. Instead of wanting revenge, which is very normal for all of us. We want
somebody to pay.
Right.
Especially in the case of a murder.
Correct.
I can only imagine, like, you feel like, I know in my family, my grandfather's sister was murdered by her husband. And my grandfather was angry.
Correct.
And if he could have put his hands on the murderer, he would have killed him
them
himself, I'm sure. But
and this isn't also about the belief system about someone dying in prison. Like by the electric chair. That's not about that. That's our human law.
That's human.
That's human law. And so we're talking about spiritual law. And our human reaction to protect our family or someone, like when I hear your story, Dana, I wanted to go and be your voice and be vigilant, but I know that that's not, stay in my lane, as I say. It's not up to me to go do those things. What we find out, though, is what is it to your core? How did it make you feel? And what can you do to change? And do you really want to put the energy out to the universe that you wish bad things for people that you aligned with or had an experience with
prior to incarnating?
And I know I've hurt people, and to me, we talked about forgiveness. To me, karma is more about not forgiving the individual, but sometimes forgiving ourselves when we've hurt others. And maybe that person doesn't know, maybe mentally they don't feel that they did anything wrong.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I know that there's things that I've done in my life that wish I could change, or I wish didn't happen the way they happened. But how can you, I guess you're right, how can you forgive yourself and allow yourself to move on without carrying that heaviness?
And that's really what we do in so many of our workshops and teaching the soul's contracts is you don't have to carry that past. It doesn't define you. And you sharing your story and me sharing my story, those are experiences, but we let those things define us. And I see it when people trust somebody, like they're in a marriage and there is betrayal or things that happen and they feel abused by that partnership. They feel like they can never open their heart up again. Versus saying, okay, what is my lesson? What did I learn about this? And you're really helping that other person believe that you are not good enough and that no one else is going to love you and no one else is going to want to be there with you. So they're putting more of that energy to make you feel isolated and not trust that you deserve happiness and joy and peace in a partnership. And that's where that energy of karma and those things that we believe in can really affect our future moving forward. And we've had relationships where they were a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Where you don't even want to open your heart. You're like, I'm not going down this, treadmill again.
Right.
So it's learning to reverse this. So one of the things that I want to help people with when they're looking at healing from pain, and this can be pain from your childhood, it can be pain from a recent relationship or a job situation, is to do some ceremonies. And one of them might be writing letters and burning them. Or especially if they're deceased, you can't send them, but you may not want to send them to this person unless it's love and light. And I don't feel like you have to send a person that caused you pain. Oh, you have to love them and embrace them.
No.
That's the previous podcast is, no, this was a perpetrator in some way. You don't have to forgive and you don't have to send them love and light. Just don't let it affect your well-being on so many levels.
Right. Let them go on their way and figure their life out, right?
Okay. Dana thought this was funny, and I've told other people to do it, but put their picture in the freezer.
Oh, I like that one. I do. I thought it was funny, but I do.
Yeah. And
so the first one is do a ceremony.
Do a ceremony. One of the ideas is do a ceremony where you write about them, the situation, what you learned, whatever works for you. You can
write the story.
Yeah. And what do they give you? And then you can burn it or you can bury it.
Put it in a drawer, bury it.
Yeah, whatever works
for you. Give it to the earth.
Yeah, give it to Mother Earth. Put it in a river. Just make sure it's good for the environment. Share with a friend, someone that you really trust that will hold space and say, I'm here for you. I will listen and I'm going to support you and not judge you or tell you what you should be doing, because that should and all that is guilt words.
So that's releasing it.
Correct.
That would be releasing that story.
Yes.
Basically.
And it's not that it's all of a sudden gone, but it's a first step to saying, I don't want this to be part of my energy any longer.
Right.
And I'm sending it back to the earth. Mm-hmm. It's one of the best things I think to do, and I think it's a very challenging thing, but if you want to shift that energy, and I've had some people really resist doing this, and that's okay. You don't have to do it, but I would encourage you to. And that's to take your recording device, maybe your phone, because it's usually always with us, and record that story of hurt and pain, and then listen to it several times a day. You basically will get a hangover from it. You will feel toxic. And the reason why is for you to understand when you think of these things, even if it's not out loud, as well as sharing the story, that's what's sent to the universe. And that's what's happening, which I would rather you switch that around and go, oh, I don't want to think that, feel that, see that, any of that stuff. So it allows you to stop telling that story that no longer defines you. Mm-hmm. And it's a quick way.
So you record your story on a recording device of your choice, and you listen back to it so you can hear what you're sending out to the universe, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that would make...
because you hear your own. Number one, most of us don't like our own voice. I mean, I've been recorded all over thousands of times, and still to this day, me hearing my own voice, I have to go to another room. I can talk it, but I don't want to hear it. But when you tell the story, you're like, oh,
I don't want to tell that anymore.
And your body will feel heavy. That's an indication what this belief system is doing, because you're still wishing that karma and you want to tell that story like they should be punished. Mm-hmm. And again, this is spiritual rule versus human rule.
Right.
So we want to keep those things separate. Even with the human rule, let's say you do want justice to be served, but also realizing what that looks like for you as you're healing through that process. Mm-hmm. That turn it over to the human law, right, and not you be always that fighter and that one that wants to really beat up everybody, right, because of how you feel, mm-hmm, even though it can motivate us. Also, don't expect a response from them. Don't expect an apology.
Right.
And because that means you're still waiting for them to acknowledge it, and they perhaps don't know how, mm-hmm, or they may manipulate it to make it sound like it's your fault, or this is why they did this, and you're going to be in another spin cycle with them.
Right.
So...
Oh, yeah.
it's going to go like, well, they should have said this, or why didn't they do this? And don't they know I told them I was hurt?
Don't they understand?
Don't they understand? And they're designed probably not to. And we have people with mental health. There are people who are narcissists. They're not going to apologize. They're not going to see it as their problem.
Right.
So again, that's what you want to remember when you're going through the healing. I did find 2 other things regarding karma, which I thought were interesting.
Well, let's talk about the freezer.
Okay.
Because we kind of
We
cut
can
that.
get over it.
So
She keeps me on track. Thank you very much.
I want to talk about the freezer. So the first time you told me this, I was like, what? And it makes perfect sense. But you have a photo or print out a photo of your abuser, perpetrator, person that hurt you, whatever you want to call them. Teacher. And you put it in the freezer, literally, to chill them out or to chill out that energy.
And when you look at it, like you open the freezer and you see it, it's kind of a chuckle. You're like, yeah.
You're in the freezer.
Because it's your way of taking power back. And it's a small symbolism of, it's not hurting them. You're not sending pain to them. You're just saying, you don't have a life force to me.
Right.
You're not connected to me. You're not giving me energy that I don't want. And so it's a good way to learn to block that energy, and knowing that, you know what, you're stuck in the freezer.
Chill out.
I can chill out. And again, all these things I recommend, and you might find something different, is it's all about intention. How does it make you feel to get that power back? Mm-hmm. And what you're looking for is that you feel like a victim and you feel like you have no power. So you want bad things to them so you gain your power. Well, that's not the law of attraction.
Right.
That's the boomerang.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess I've never been a big believer in karma. I probably have used that term.
But we use it with fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure I've used it at some point. But when somebody tells me, oh, well, karma's gotten them, or karma's going to get them, I look at them like they're crazy. Like, I don't care. I'm not carrying that energy. No. I don't care what happens to them. I don't wish them bad. But I also don't want them in my energy space, right? Correct. Just at all. Mm-hmm. So the freezer is perfect.
I'm going to freeze you on this one.
Freeze you out.
Freeze you out. And there's other ceremonies that you can do. Change the story. That's going back to the recording of the phone. Mm-hmm. So all of these, like putting them in the freezer, burning the letter you wrote, all these things is to change that story. Mm-hmm. So I think with your story, for an example, and my story, I use those as catalysts for me to move forward. Like, okay, this happened to me. Such my religion. I was kicked out of my religion at the age of like 21, 22, okay? After it being my life, my old thing I knew. And which meant that no one could communicate with me or see me, or excommunicated. Yeah. So that meant all the people I grew up with, all my relatives were not allowed to see me. And at the time, it was so hurtful. And I've gone through times where I'm like, I want to just go tell them and blah, 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 blah. Well,
right. Even recently it
comes up. It doesn't go away because I'm 61. But part of this is to remember that, was that a good path that I went on? What was the blessing that happened in that? What was the blessing with the first divorce? All these things you can look back and go, maybe I wouldn't have been here. That pushed me. It was a catalyst to have me see other things. Right. I know for me, learning this work of spirituality and mediumship and teaching, going through a really hard time, I wouldn't have gone this direction if things were okay. So that push of that negativity. The
universe pushed you to what you were meant to.
So if you can change that story, even record the story, like, well, now I realize what courage I have. I realize, too, that what you were doing didn't serve me, to open my heart to somebody else. Maybe this created another opportunity in my work so I can do something I'm really passionate about.
So rewrite your story.
Rewrite your story.
That's the biggest suggestion. That's the takeaway.
Rewrite your story.
Do all these things maybe to let it go, but then rewrite it.
Yeah. Where's the blessings in it? When we're in the heat of it, the big mix of it, when it's really raw, many times we can't see the blessings in it. We're just in pain. So as we continue to heal it and adjust it, then look at your blessings through that.
And look at what lessons you've learned as you continue on your path to growth. Yeah.
Yeah, didn't you like the saying? It says, if you focus on hurt, you will continue to suffer. If you focus on the lesson, you will continue to grow. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly it. If we change that energy around the story. And I'm inspired most by people that go through a hard time and they come out of it with superpowers. You know, we all have our superpowers. So what is it that we can learn from these experiences and leave it as a legacy for others to not be fear-based and feeling like they can't get through it, which is why I wanted you and begged you to tell your story. Because we all have a story. I like this to wrap it up. It says, if you feel like you're losing everything, remember that trees lose their leaves every year, and they still stand tall and wait for the better days to come. And I think that's what we may want to look at when we're going through a healing of pain. And instead of wishing all the karma, looking at it as, how can this be a catalyst for my future? What lessons and insights can I get from what that experience was, so that I can be strong and see my value, and I don't have to let what others' opinions mean define me. And that's where I feel like karma can really trip us up when we want to grow and change and become more enlightened.
I love it.
Yeah. So thanks for joining us here once again on Spirited Straight Talk. I hope you find that this discussion regarding karma has you thinking about things.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Spirited Straight Talk. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you subscribe so that you get notified of new shows. We'd also love it if you'd leave us a review. And let's connect. Visit debshepard.com for more insights, support, workshops, and to book a session with Deb. Plus, enter to get a free reading with Deb. All you have to do is sign up for the email list and you'll automatically be entered. Just go to debshepard.com. That's DEBSHEPPARD.com.